Think about your favorite movie from the 80s. I mean, beyond the big-name hero, who else do you remember? The friend, the sister, that ever-present face that just made the whole world of the film feel real. Well, today, we're going to dive into the story of one of those absolutely essential artists, a star whose work you've almost certainly seen, even if you never knew her name. I mean, she was a fixture of 1980s Bollywood, a constant presence in some of the most iconic movies of that entire decade. But how much do we really know about the person behind all those memorable roles? Okay, let's get into it. So, our story really starts with some recent, pretty sad news that brought Madhu Malhotra's incredible career right back into the spotlight. It was a moment that reminded a whole generation of moviegoers just how important she really was. On March 13th, Madhu Malhotra passed away at the age of 71. And, for anyone who grew up on a diet of 80s and 90s Hindi films, her face was just unforgettable. She was more than just an actress. She felt like a part of the family, this constant, comforting presence in the stories we all grow up with. Every long, successful career has a starting point, right? And Malhotra's is, well, it's pretty surprising. It wasn't in some family drama or a big romance. Nope. It was somewhere much, much darker. All right, so here's our first question for you. For an actress who became so famous for family dramas and comedies, where do you think it all started? Just take a second, have a guess. The answer, a 1975 horror film called Andhera, which means darkness. And here's the real kicker. It was directed by the legendary Ramsey brothers, who were basically the kings of Indian horror cinema. Can you imagine that? The actress who would become this staple in wholesome family films started her journey in the scariest movies of the time? What a contrast. So, from that wild horror debut, Malhotra moved fast. She went from the fringes right to the very center of the film industry, becoming this absolutely indispensable part of some of the era's biggest and best productions. And this brings us to her really big break. Just a few years after that horror movie, she was cast in a massive blockbuster alongside one of the biggest stars in the entire country. So our next question is, which legendary actor was she playing the sister of? Think about the biggest names from the late 70s. If you guessed Amitabh Bachchan, you are absolutely right. Landing a role in a major film with the country's biggest star, that was a complete game changer. And you have to understand, back then, playing the hero's sister wasn't some small part. No way. That character was often the emotional anchor of the entire film, and this role just catapulted her into the big leagues. But it wasn't just about acting with the big stars. It was about being part of these unforgettable cinematic moments. And that brings us to the music. She was featured in one of Bollywood's most iconic songs ever, from the 1983 blockbuster Hero. Any idea which one it was? The answer is Lambi Judai from the blockbuster film Hero. That song, it's a heart-wrenching ballad about separation sung by the legendary Pakistani folk singer Reshma, and it's just an absolute classic. Malhotra's performance during the song's emotional scenes added so much depth, and it really became a defining visual for one of the most famous soundtracks in Hindi cinema history. And her momentum just kept on building. I mean, just look at this list from the early 80s. These aren't just any films, they are absolute classics. Whether it was a fun musical number in Sate Pe Sata, a tense thriller like Cars, or sharing the screen with a legend like Dilip Kumar and Vidata, you literally couldn't go to the movies without seeing her. Saying she was everywhere is kind of an understatement. The sheer volume of her work is just staggering, and it really speaks to how reliable and how versatile directors found her to be. So let's try to put a number on that. Across those 3 decades, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, how many Hindi films do you think she actually appeared in? Just take a guess. What does your gut say? More than 100 films. Just let that number sink in for a minute. That's like making 5 movies every single year for 2 decades straight. It's an absolutely incredible testament to her work ethic and just how essential she was to the industry. But that number, it tells a bigger story than just a busy schedule. It shows her incredible range. I mean, she could do it all. She was a key ingredient in those multi-star films of the 80s, those big epics with huge casts. Directors knew that no matter how small the part, she would bring real depth and total professionalism every single time. So ultimately, her impact goes far, far beyond just a film count. It's really about the space she carved out for herself and the impressions she left on audiences and the industry itself. There's a quote that I think just sums it up perfectly. It says, "Her death marked the end of an era for everyone who grew up with that vibrant, tune-filled cinema of the 80s." And that's exactly right, isn't it? Her passing wasn't just the loss of an actress. For so many of us, it felt like a chapter of our own history had closed. And this really gets to the heart of her legacy. For producers, she was seen as a lucky charm. For audiences, she was that familiar, comforting face. But her true importance was representing that whole ecosystem of supporting artists, the people who are the real backbone of any film industry. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. Every era of film, doesn't matter the country, has its own Manu Malhotras. You know, those supporting actors who aren't the main star, but without whom the movie just wouldn't be the same. So who